bit. Just a little bit. You sometimes never really know how this is supposed to turn out. Okay, so hey everyone, this is Kevin the Apptrepreneur, and welcome to an impromptu live stream podcast of the Apptrepreneur Show. I frankly do not anticipate a lot of people to join this live stream. It is, after all, 9:20. It is unscheduled. But I've been watching the drama on YouTube involving Quantum TV and the Act-Man and how YouTube has responded to the controversy. And I've got some thoughts on the matter. And I decided I wanted to share my thoughts, ironically, because I am a small YouTuber who used to do very well on this channel, at least, compared to regular jobs. But, I've since kind of fallen into obscurity a little bit. That's fine. It happens. I had my day in the sun. But I keep watching these videos, the Review Tech USA's, the Act-Man videos, the Optimum videos, and they pretty much said that what's going on between Act-Man and Quantum TV and the way YouTube has actually responded is making them all very, very scared on what the future on YouTube actually looks like. And I have to admit, I kind of share that sentiment a little bit. I think there is a key thing that a lot of people are not aware of on why Act-Man has been banned. I still don't agree that he should be demonetized and banned, but I kind of want to talk about the whole thing. So I'm going to try to, how should I put it, send this situation up this really complicated situation up as quickly as possible so we can get onto the real juice. But basically, this whole thing started when Quantum TV, another YouTuber, made a video about Elden Rings and basically felt that it was too hard and that that you should not make games that are just this hard. You should just oh, hi Uberbuck. That there should always be an easy mode, and it was not a take that was well received. I did not agree with that take, and Quantum TV's response to basically the criticism of his videos was to copyright strike videos of people who are responding to him, using his clips to respond to him, basically claiming that they are stealing his copyright material. Now, that is fair use, and people have every right to do that, but he was abusing the copyright system. And, a lot of YouTubers spoke out about it, that this is wrong, you shouldn't be doing this, like, this is, like, this is a flagrant abuse of YouTube's copyright system, but the one voice in the crowd that was the loudest was the Act-Man. The Act-Man, who I'm going to admit, I had not heard about the Act-Man before. This was my introduction to him, and what an introduction it was. He makes these long-form content videos, and he decided to start compiling a list of all of Quantum TV's offenses and basically showing that this guy is a menace to YouTube and probably not well in the head and probably needs to be kicked off the platform. And a lot of people said, good on you, because he was saying what everyone was feeling. There were some people who, even though they were kind of speaking out against him, Quantum TV wouldn't go full throttle, because once Quantum showed what he was willing to do to silence his critics, a lot of people just did not want to deal with it. And that rings true to me. There was actually a couple situations where I had people who were making nasty videos about me, sending their wolves, their bullies at me. Some, you might know one of them, another one you might not, or maybe you don't know any of them. And it doesn't really matter, but, I will say, to everyone's credit in that war, nobody copyright struck anyone. We all argued with each other through words, through videos, and at the end of the day, most of us, there's at least one guy who had his channel terminated twice who never came around. We all shook hands. But once you start copyright flagging other content creators' videos just because you don't like what they have to say about you, that is when you are crossing a line, because that is just the one thing you do not do. As if we already have to worry about companies wrongly copyright striking our videos, which I'm finding out more and more as I start making long-form content on my iCritic channel, and some of those videos can't go up for months because I'm dealing with the copyright system in the background. it's an absolute insanity. And so for a regular YouTuber to do that, that is wrong. Well, Actman is big enough that he has his own partner on YouTube. Basically, he has someone he can call at the company to sort things out. And YouTube made a decision. They looked at the situation, and there's more detailed videos on exactly how Quantum was able to cover up his copyright flagging and things like that. I think it involved taking down certain videos before YouTube actually got to view them. It's kind of like that situation where you're at the theater and someone's constantly talking, and you politely ask them to stop talking, and then they basically say, well, what are you going to do about it? So you get up, you go get the manager, and the manager has to witness the people talking. And sure enough, once the people are aware that the manager is there, they stop talking because they're perfectly capable of not talking, but they don't want to. And then once the manager leaves, because he's not going to stand there the whole movie waiting for someone to talk, then they start talking again. I think it was something like that Quantum was able to basically get around, and YouTube said that they found nothing wrong. Now, Actman had offenses in his video, in one of the videos, and so there was evidence they could see and they could take into account, but I think their stance was basically, well, it's not on YouTube now, so we find that he did nothing wrong and we're not going to do anything, which of course was a complete validation in Quantum's eyes that he was in the right. And that scared everyone at YouTube, especially me. Now, I wasn't terribly surprised by it. I've had 5 cyberbullies on this site. I don't know, there was something about old Kevin the Apptrepreneur that some people just really didn't like, and they spent a lot of time obsessing. One guy who got his channel terminated twice, he was making like daily videos about me. They never got more than like a dozen views. Nevertheless, it was hilarious because it wasn't actually doing any harm. But I kind of think about that situation, and what if that guy, and the laundry is done, as you can probably hear, what if that guy had just a few thousand subscribers? I have to admit, there's a few problems with YouTube right now. The first problem is that YouTube allows this content to stay on, that there is not a more efficient flagging system, that, true, genuine cyberbullying does not get picked up on unless a bunch of people flag video and say, hey, this is cyberbullying, it's against YouTube's terms of service. You have to get a lot of people flagging those videos before YouTube, yes, I am live QTube, and thanks, Uberbuck. You have to get a lot of people to flag those videos before YouTube will even take a look at it. And here's kind of one of the sad things. This is maybe a human nature thing. It goes all the way back to the Good Samaritan story in the Bible, if you will, where if it's the right thing to do, people usually don't want to get involved. Ironically, the fans of the cyberbullies, usually because they've got their own insecurities, they don't mind going crazy and false flagging videos. So that kind of explains some of that. Something crazy is going on my Twitter, but I'm not going to stop the video to check it out. So anyway, Quantum TV gets away with it. Now, one thing that the Actman is doing when he's dealing with this process to try to get this Quantum TV situation sorted out is he's recording phone calls that he's on with the YouTube members. And he makes a video that shows that YouTube is corrupt, that basically they know that this is a problem and they choose not to do anything about it. And Actman's video is taken down. Now, interestingly, it's taking down the video for nudity and sexual content, which is an extremely weird thing to do. It's almost like that situation where they can't pinpoint exactly what it is that they're taking this video down for. So they're going to watch the video and they're going to look at the part like, oh, there's a cucumber Joe, flag it for sexual content. And it was weird. It was absolutely weird. Like that's the reason you're going for, like, really. But I just recently watched another video, and I really wish I could remember the guy's name. I will give him credit. In fact, I will look him up now while we are talking. But he pointed out that there was something else in the video that maybe got YouTube's attention, and that is that that in the Actman video, I'm sorry, I guess I can't do this. Well, I'm just getting too distracted, and I'm going to lose my train of thought. But I'll put a link to the guy's video below because I want him to get credit for this. In that video, Actman calls out a couple YouTube employees by name. And apparently, because Actman has over 1 million subscribers, and people who had not heard the situation or the Actman, including me, are very sympathetic because Quantum TV has made an infamous name for himself, and nobody wants to be at the end of that craziness. They probably reached out to YouTube and criticized these people by names. Now, I don't know if they made threats to these people. There probably were some threats. I wouldn't be surprised. Whenever you say, even if you say, like, this person wronged me, I do not like this person, but please do not bother them, do not harass them. It doesn't matter even if you say that. People are going to harass those people. And so, interestingly, YouTube did not like that. They probably didn't like that they named a couple employees' names, and then they probably really didn't like the fact that that video was making the rounds and making YouTube look really, really bad. Like, truly, they were looking awful in how they came off in Actman's video. And so, what do they decide to do? Well, they decide that they are going to take it down. And this move scares the community like nothing else. Now, again, I want to say there's an aspect to this. If he did, in fact, name people, that might be against YouTube's terms of service because you are, in a sense, doxing them. Some people say, well, what could a name do? Well, here's the thing. You have their name. You know where they work. So, you figure it out. And I'm going to say something that, and I want to stress, a lot of the parties involved have moved on. I'm not holding a grudge or anything. This is not what the video is about. But during some of my other problems, I got strange phone calls. I got strange email. My wife, who was a girlfriend at the time, got emails. And it's like, how did you get this stuff? But if they have your name, maybe they find you on Facebook, and then they start looking through your friends list. And that's why, if you're going to be on Facebook and things like that, I would recommend using a pen name. Use a pen name, don't use your real name. By the way, this is also a good idea because if you're going to be applying for just a regular job, most people will look at your YouTube page, and if they see anything on there that they don't like, you might not get a job. So it's just good to keep Facebook as hidden and friends only as possible. It does not matter if you have 5,000 friends on YouTube. Be happy with 30 or 40. You don't have that many friends, and getting 5,000 does not add. What did Jack Nicholson say in The Departed? Don't add inches to your dick. That's what he said. So keep it private. But yeah, and that was a very small time thing. We're talking about channels that had less than 10,000 subscribers who were coming after me. So to think of like these channels with millions of subscribers, or at the very least hundreds of thousands of subscribers, that is an absolutely insane thing. But yeah, so the Actman shares these names and basically pisses someone off at YouTube. Now, I think that was like the big mistake that was made on his part, because otherwise YouTube would be coming off looking very, very bad in this situation. And they still come off looking bad because I don't think a lot of people understood the real reason why that video got taken down. But here's the the thing. Even if YouTube was completely within their right to take it down, even if Ackman technically did abuse the terms of service, they went so nuclear on his butt that it still sends shivers down YouTubers, even if they know that there was probably a little bit of a legitimate reason for why that video was taken down. Because a lot of people were pointing out, well, look, it's your first community strike. You're allowed 3. You've got some wiggle room. Like, what? Like, don't worry about it. But Ackman on Twitter was basically saying, like, yeah, if the channel disappears one day, it was nice serving you all. Then he wrote that, goodbye note. It was almost like a suicide note. Like, I know that I'm not going to be around much longer. I'm sorry I couldn't. So here's what's going to happen. People are going like, why are you writing like this? And then after the video gets taken down, his channel is demonetized. What's more, all of his old videos, and you know that they could not be actually looking at each video individually because he has how many does he have? He's at the top here. Let's just look real quick. How many videos does he have? Oh, a lot. A lot. We're talking about well, let's see here. When was his first video? 7 years ago. Wow. He has a lot of videos. Like, it would take months to go through all the videos to make sure they were all family friendly, and someone, sorry, my nose is itching, just said, nope, they're all age restricted. Now, what does age restricted mean? For those of you who are not in the know-how with YouTube lingo, well, age restricted means that they have basically deemed that this video is not family friendly. It's probably not even advertiser friendly. So it's going to stay up, but the algorithm will no longer promote it. It will not be recommended to visitors who, might just stumble upon it. It basically stunts growth. So a video like the funniest game no one played, Armed and Dangerous, that has been deemed age restricted. It's not family friendly, even though that sounds like a very friendly. Is the Xbox Series X worth it? Console review, age restricted. They're all age restricted. These videos will not be pushed in the algorithm at all. Now, here's the thing. He will maintain his 1.4 million subscribers, but he is unlikely to get any more because of that. Now, here's the thing. He is talking like he kind of knows that YouTube is going to be nuking his channel, like it's going to be deleted. And he's already said that he has at least one more video because he wants to say goodbye. He's going to take a day off because it's going to be his birthday and all that. And it's like, well, I'm going to celebrate my birthday. I hope YouTube does not terminate his channel on his birthday. That would be the best birthday gift ever, right? But he's talking like the channel might be deleted. Now, that is the worst case scenario, that YouTube will just get rid of his old channel. Now, the not worst case scenario is that going forward, he will make new videos, and those ones won't be age restricted unless YouTube has set it up for them to automatically be age restricted, which, for all I know, they're perfectly within their capabilities of doing. But let's say they don't do that. Let's say he can actually make money on future videos. Well, now it's basically like starting from scratch. It's basically like starting from scratch, because even if those videos get views, you have 7 years worth of videos that will no longer be recommended. And it's absolutely insane. Now, did he act recklessly? We'll talk about that in a minute. So here's the thing. Yeah, sorry, I got distracted there for a second. So Ackman is definitely screwed in this regard. I would be very curious to see if he decides to fight this legally, because on the one hand, he probably did break the terms of service. On the other hand, he was trying to get a problem taken care of, one that could still affect YouTube's bottom line, but they refused to do anything about it despite the evidence. And had they done something, he might not he might have done something that pun. Had they actually acted on that warning, he would not have needed to make that video. And even still, like if his channel gets terminated, like he only has one community guideline strike. I have never ever seen a channel get as damaged as this guy's has from one community guidelines strike. You know what the punishment for getting a community strike is? First of all, that video is taken down. But the second thing is you don't live stream for a while. And by the way, this can be death to channels that make their living off live streams because they can't get the super chats anymore. So, I mean, it is a significant punishment, but it's one that will go away after a month or two or something like that. He had his channel was demonetized. His videos were all age restricted. They killed the channel over one community guideline strike, but it was about YouTube. So, you know, of course they're feeling a little punitive. And this is a situation that is going to be so bad for the platform. And here's what concerns me. And this is what concerns me for everyone. Because again, I'm a small-time YouTuber. I used to be big enough where I could make this my full-time job. I can't do it anymore. Maybe one day I will, but I'm not there. And yeah, it just happens. People move on. But you know what this is going to send a very strong message to people to not ever complain about YouTube. Like, don't reach out to YouTube. They're not going to solve anything. But you know who's eventually going to pick up on the story? It hasn't happened already, but I bet you tomorrow, if not tomorrow, the day after, you will start seeing articles in the newspaper and in the media about this. People are going to start writing about how there was this madman, in my opinion, on YouTube that was abusing the copyright system. That when presented with an abundance of evidence, YouTube did nothing. And when, in frustration, that guy made a video about YouTube and how they failed him and how he felt they were corrupt, they punished him for trying to fix the problem. And ironically, they're punishing him for breaking the same terms of service that the other guy is breaking. But apparently, like those people in the theater who knew to stop talking just enough until the manager left, basically he wasn't caught in the act, so they weren't going to do anything. And that is going to cause a brand new adpocalypse. It's going to be a serious, serious problem. And look, I've been through an adpocalypse or two, and it is not fun when the media gets involved with YouTube, because even though, you know, some people think that there's no conspiracy, and I believe that the typical print media hates YouTube. Why wouldn't they hate YouTube? People like me get on the internet, we talk about the news, we give our opinions, and people would rather watch us about the news than read their newspapers. And their numbers have been dwindling for years, and they've been trying to discredit YouTube for years. I fully believe that. And so they are looking for blood in the water, and they have found it. They have found it. And now it's a scary time to be on YouTube because, you know, if you do anything wrong you say anything about YouTube, you know, now a precedent has been set. You complain about YouTube, and we will not do the due process that's in our own system. You're not just going to get a community guideline strike. That will fall off if you follow the rules a little bit after that. You are going to have your channel destroyed. We will nuke the sucker. We will say all age restriction, no monetization. This is your full-time job. Who cares? Can I go talk to someone at HR? No, you can't. That's it. It's all done. And I feel for the people who are now, YouTube is their job, and now there's this huge cloud hanging over their head. Not only because what can we not say in the future, what about past videos where they criticize YouTube? Are those videos now in danger of nuking their channels? Do they have to take them all down? it's created a lot of fear and uncertainty because people don't want to give this up. And I completely understand where they're coming from, because it is not fun to basically lose your channel as your livelihood. I'm going to share a little story now. You might not think that it has much to do, but hear me out. One of the most memorable quotes that I remember hearing as a kid, I was watching, it was Siskel and Ebert were doing a talk. And this was shortly before Gene Siskel died from a brain tumor. He gave a speech to a school, him and Ebert, and one of the things he said was, if there is one wish I hope for all of you to have, I hope you find a job that you truly love, a job that you are passionate about, a job that defines you so much that you would hate to have it taken away from you. And I kind of know the feeling about it going away, because look, this channel was not the Act Man, it was not PewDiePie, but it got enough views that I made somewhere between $5,000 to $10,000 a month. It was very nice. You throw in the sponsorships and the super chats and all that, and it was really nice. And I loved doing it. I love making videos. I love getting on here, talking with you guys, sharing my opinion. I love it so much that I still do it, even though it's not very profitable anymore. Sure, I get a few $100s, but it's not something that pays the bills. And I remember when the day came when and it was because the the Uber topic was going away. People were losing interest in that topic. Like, some people say that the channel died when I stopped talking about Uber. No, it didn't happen when I stopped talking about Uber. It stopped near the tail end because Uber was just not a profitable topic anymore. So I tried to pivot, didn't work. And I still have the channel, and I still make a few dollars. And there's still some people who, in all fairness, still visit. But whenever I make videos that are not about Uber, all they say is like, we just want Uber videos. And look, I made a few Uber videos recently. It's kind of nostalgic, to be honest, to do it. But those Uber videos that I did put up, they got 400 to 600 views. Not much. You can't make a living off of that. So I know the pain of waking up one day, and maybe it wasn't taken away from me suddenly. It was a little bit of a downward spiral, but I know the hurt of realizing that this was no longer a profitable enterprise, and I would have to find new work. I'd have to go back to a day job. And I am not going to lie, I wept. I wept. It's like I worked so hard to build this channel, and I was doing so well, and it went away. And now every YouTuber, especially ones that talk about YouTube and drama and all that jazz, they are now under this cloud. They're under this cloud that it could be taken away for any reason. I mean, look, Actman is putting up a good professional show. I know he is. He's making these professional statements. He's gotten a little less, not a little less, a lot less combative in his tweets. He knows that basically he pushed too hard, and now it's coming back to bite him. But the situation is rotten all around. Why couldn't YouTube just take down the video? And this is a strong warning. This is what you did. Do not do it again. No, they had to go nuclear on him. And then what about the events leading up to it? You know, one of the people in this chat room, I don't know if he's still here, said the Act Man acted restlessly. And you know what? That is easy to say from the outside. It is very easy to be from the outside looking in and saying that Act Man, he overdid it. He overshot. It's his fault. But here's the thing. Here's the thing. What was going on before he pushed too hard? He's dealing with, in my opinion, a lunatic who would not leave him alone. He started calling his mother. He started doing things that were, at the very least, unethical and almost certainly illegal. I mean, it is easy to say you have to be the bigger person until you are in a situation where you have strangers calling your house, going to your mailbox and messing it up, emailing your girlfriend and scaring her. It's so easy to not be in that and say, well, you just got to ignore it. You just got to ignore it. Nothing you can really do about that. And it's like, no, this screws with your mental health. And it's admittingly the one thing about being a public figure that I do not necessarily miss. I don't mind the response videos. I mean, I don't get it right all the time. But, I got the phone calls. I remember getting some of those calls at 3 or 4 in the morning. It's like, hello, and you hear, and I like, what's going, hello? And they're like, Team Alpha, bitch. Beep. Ooh. And yeah, you go to the police. Of course, they're going to go to the police, but they're really not trained to deal with this. I mean, you got to get the FBI involved in some of these cases, and how seriously is the FBI going to take things like this? I mean, it's a whole new world. And keep in mind, I was a small subscriber, and this guy had over 1 million subscribers. He was clearly popular. I can only imagine what he's getting. I mean, he even said in one of his statements, like, I don't think Quantum TV is behind this. I got a call from someone who claimed to be Quantum TV, but it's not Quantum TV. And it's like, yeah, you just don't know. Is that Quantum TV sending him a stooge? Or is that a stooge acting on Quantum TV's behalf? Because in their mind, that's going to make them proud. Like, and I know that YouTube can't necessarily control the situation, and we got to be careful because people are allowed to be called out and they are allowed to make disagreement videos. But if someone has serious documentation like, hey, this person seems to be enabling it, and look, he's not doing it all on YouTube. I mean, it should concern YouTube that one of their rising stars is on the platform making videos about this guy, and then in his private time he's calling his mother. And it's like, maybe there should be some ethical standards. I mean, when other YouTubers are caught doing something stupid outside of YouTube, they will get suspended if it is deemed a public embarrassment. And yet YouTube didn't think this was a public embarrassment. But the Act Man calling out YouTube after it got to a point where he just couldn't take it anymore, that is when YouTube decides to act. The articles are going to be brutal about this. I hope the journalists do their job, because they need to do their job. They need to call YouTube and say, hey, why did you do this? Oh, because he broke these 2 reserves. Okay, yeah. Are you aware that he brought up all these things? Like, did you see this stuff? And he's like, oh yeah, we saw it. It's like, yeah, why did you do this? And it doesn't matter that they're not employees. It's like, this, actually, it's all the more concerning, because if they aren't employees, then why are they? Yeah, YouTube's protecting their employees. Like, it's, yeah, but again, there's always a bigger context here. Like I said, I'm not complete. Unfortunately, Ackman did go a little too far, and that's the unfortunate thing. But you look at what he was pushed to go that far, and it's like, here's what's going to happen going forward, and this is not in YouTube's interest at all. Quantum TV has figured out the finger trick. And I know that sounds dirty, but hear me out. It's really not. Chances are you've all had the finger trick. It's that thing where basically you complain to the teacher that this kid is picking on you and he's bullying you and he's being shoved. So the teacher tells that kid, don't touch him or you will be expelled from school or suspended or whatever. So what does the kid do? He holds the finger an inch away from your face and he says, I'm not touching you. I'm not touching you. In fact, look, you see, I'm not touching the camera, but look how close that is. Does that seem like it's a comfortable feeling? Quantum TV has figured out how to play I'm not touching you with YouTube. Hey, I can make these videos. I know what effect it will have on the audience. And then as long as I'm doing this other stuff off of YouTube and YouTube doesn't catch it in the act, I can do this. Do you not think, because there are worse people on YouTube. I think Quantum TV is frankly a narcissist. Narcissists can be pretty darn dangerous at times, but I think he's just a narcissist. What if you have someone who genuinely, because there are some channels out there where they are proud that they talk down to people and they talk smack. They seem like high school bullies who were popular when they were in school, but then they grew up and the real world hit them and they didn't want to admit that the real world hit them. So they vent on YouTube. But now they're probably looking at the situation and go like, oh, you mean I can have my glory days back? I can shove the kid in the locker again, and I can do it in a way where YouTube won't get me in trouble. I mean, there are some sick people out there. So the situation, the more you think about it, the more it gets uncomfortable. Like, what on earth are you doing, YouTube? How on earth are you letting this slide? And here's another scary thing. Because of the manner on which YouTube has done this video might get taken down and my channel might be in trouble. And that's what every YouTuber is thinking right now. That video that I mentioned earlier, which I will put a link to below because it was a very good video. At one point, he even says at the end of the video, I don't know if I'm going to upload this video. I have to look over it one more time just to make sure I'm covered because he knows the potential legal ramifications. He also said, by the way, don't re-upload good night, Uber Buck. He acknowledges that, or he warns you, like, don't re-upload the Act Man's video that was taken down unless you want your channel to be terminated. But, we have rules for a reason. I think that video is going to be uploaded outside of YouTube. I don't think YouTube's going to be able to escape it. If there is one positive thing about this whole thing, it's the Barbra Streisand effect, or just the Streisand effect. And for those of you who are not aware of what the Streisand effect is, like, what the heck? I think it's an interesting story. There was a realtor showing pictures of houses and land, and one of the pictures was of Barbra Streisand's backyard, and you could see inside her house. Well, she considered that an invasion of privacy and sued the realtor. Now, when she did that, the photo had been viewed like 14 times or something like that, and a couple times was by her and a couple times by her lawyer. So really almost no one had seen it. And rather than politely ask them to take it down, good night, Muhammad, she sued, and then thousands, if not upon thousands of people went and looked at her backyard picture. And this is what's going to happen to YouTube. That Act Man video is going to become one of the most famous YouTube videos of all time. And this is the only good thing that's coming out of it, because that video will be seen by more and more people. Journalists will write about it, and YouTube will have egg on their face. They will have egg on their face. But what if YouTube does reverse course on the Act Man and they say, we made a terrible mistake. We overreacted. We're going to unage restrict your videos. We're going to give you your monetization back. The one community guideline strike stands, and you can't live stream for 3 months. Well, here's the thing. I mean, he'll be put on a list, and they might wait a year, maybe 2, and then before you know it, just terminate the channel again, and at that point, it'll be over. So, anyway, that's what's going on, and it's just such an interesting situation to look, because again, I had cyber bullies. Actually, made peace with some of them, not all of them. One of them, his channel was taken out a couple times. We never abused the copyright system. We duped it out with words and videos, and then a couple of us even shook hands and said, "Hey, are you tired? Yeah, I'm tired too. Why don't we just call it a day and let's do a collab and let's just move on from this BS?" And that was great. Um, so, and that's ideally the best way to do it. But if it gets on a scale, YouTube really needs to act. And again, and here's another reason why it's bad that YouTube responded the way they did. Is that by letting Quantum TV get away with it by basically pulling the manager trick. Like, what do you think? Why do you think one of the reasons people don't go to the movies anymore? And don't say streaming, because I know it's convenient, but it's not really the reason people don't go to the movies. Because long before streaming, theater attendance had started to go down. And the primary reason was people who talked and people on their cell phones. So here's the thing. The movie theater managers might say, well, we can't kick that person out because we didn't catch him in the act, but it doesn't mean it wasn't happening. And when you have to put up with that, people say, well, screw it. I'll just rent the DVD from Blockbuster. Why am I going to pay all this money to go here when the talkers and the texters won't even be kicked out if I point it out? And so by YouTube saying, playing dumb and saying, well, Quantum TV didn't actually do something on YouTube. He was doing things off of YouTube. But it doesn't matter. It's reflecting poorly on your platform. And advertisers are going to look at it and they're going to like, hey, this guy has like 250,000 subscribers or whatever. I don't know how many subscribers he has. And he's doing all this stuff offline and it's reflecting bad on you guys, and we pay ads to put our advertisements on his videos. Why are you doing this? And they're going to pull their advertisements, and then you know what's going to happen? Then you're going to have to see YouTubers start unconnecting their social media accounts from their YouTube, because now if you say something dumb on Twitter, or like say you're having a conversation on your Facebook page with a family member, and Uncle Terrence is complaining about how there wasn't enough booze at the wedding, and you say, oh, grow up, Uncle Terrence, you're such a child. Like, now your personal life is being intermingled with your YouTube life, even if you are not personally causing drama. Like, there is so many ways this can go bad. And of course, YouTube probably just made it worse. And who knows where this is going to go. Like I said, keep an eye out for the articles tomorrow or the day after. They're going to start being written, and especially because videos like this keep popping up. So it is a scary time to be on YouTube. And it's the slippery slope. It is, and it's always been the slippery slope. I mean, but the thing is, and I'm sure part of that is like advertisers don't exactly understand what's going on. But when YouTube opened up the monetization for everyone because they wanted to collect more ad dollars, and then the Washington Post found a couple of Coca-Cola ads on some extremist videos, and it caused the adpocalypse, and now my Apptrepreneur Media channel has to get another 492 subscribers before I can get that monetized. So, subscribe if you can. Part of that is the company's not realizing how YouTube worked. But then what did YouTube do? Well, they put provisions like, well, we're going to screen these things. The situation got ugly, and I know YouTube employees can't be everywhere at once. They can't understand every drama that's going on their platform. But I think that there should be a couple of people who work at YouTube who should be forced just to stay on Twitter, just to see if anything on YouTube is trending. And if something on YouTube is trending, it doesn't matter how big or how small that channel is, YouTube needs to get in there, and they have to go to both those creators and say, hey, you gotta knock this off. Because if you don't knock this off, we're gonna have to deal out some punishment. And if you find when you go to those people that someone is instigating it, give him a community guideline strike. Like, say your actions, whether they be online or on YouTube or a mixture of both, are affecting, our image. And being a partner a YouTube or being monetized is a privilege, so you will knock that off. I believe there is room for civil discourse. Thanks for the super chat, Al Sadler. Really comes in handy. There is room for civil discourse. What happened between Ackman and Quantum TV was not civil discourse, and the sad thing was it was primarily one-sided on who was wrong. And YouTube chose poorly, and then the Ackman made just a little too far, and now everyone's going to be having a cloud over their head, wondering what happens now. I should have got a bottle of water for this. This actually reminds me why I enjoy the podcast thing. So, anyway, that is my 2 cents on the topic, and I might have more to say on the topic because I'm oddly very invested in this. I have not been invested in YouTube drama since the change the channel thing, and that's kind of an interesting story in of itself. I was actually like a big part of that in an inadvertent way. I saw that Doug Walker on his Facebook page said, former employer, I made a video about has the nostalgia critic quit. It was total speculation, and I said in the video I didn't know, but that video went viral, and people were citing that video, and I got blamed, probably rightfully so, for spreading fake news. And that was kind of an interesting thing. So like I gained a lot of subscribers on that channel for those couple of weeks. But I have to admit the other part of that situation was that when I saw the relentlessness of Channel Awesome producers going after the Walker brothers and stuff like that, I get that there were grievances, but it started to make me feel a little uncomfortable with the viciousness. Like almost like the more people left the site, the more it became like a game. Like, how can we get rid of all of them? It made me sit unwell. So I've largely, and then once I got involved in my own drama, I've largely stayed away from it. But I think this one might have some site-wide implications. So I think I might just continue to cover this. We'll see what happens if this channel does not get demonetized for even speaking about it in the first place. So anyway, let me now go to this video. Let me read some of the comments. Like some of them were like we're going by very fast. I didn't get to read them all. I'll see if there were any questions or something before we wrap up this podcast, because at the end of the podcast is where we answer questions. So let me just pull it up here. Everything's got to load. So, and it says I'm not live. So, oh, there it is. So, maybe someone should sell cyberbully defense tactics. Well, in a way, they do. It's called a VPN and other things like that. The Gates of Conflict. I don't know if I've ever seen the Gates of Conflict before, but welcome. I'm glad you could join us. First you say, facts, thank you, and it's like, but this was coming for a long time. A lot of these things are. Usually there's a problem on YouTube, and this is just the way it's been. I've been on YouTube long enough to know how this works, where it's like, usually there is an issue, and it's brewing, and everyone knows it's a problem, and YouTube is slow to react to it. And when they finally do react to it, they usually overcorrect. So I'm just curious, what's the overcorrection going to be? We have the Wacky Taxi. Welcome. I don't know if I've ever seen you here before, but welcome to the live stream. And you said YouTube took it way too seriously. It's what Penguins Zero suggested. If YouTube noticed that there was something inappropriate, they could request you to cut that part out with the bullet editor. Well, they got hurt. Their feelings were hurt, but the ironic thing was all the complaints that Ackman had, like, hey, he's putting like my parents' name and stuff online so that people can harass them. YouTube didn't take that seriously. And then when he names employees and doesn't ask anyone to do anything, I'm assuming they got some calls at the very least, and they didn't like it very much, so ironically they went extreme for something that they didn't like that was happening to him. All right. Q2 says, if YouTube was wrong, they would have to double down to avoid looking stupid. You know, there are some companies that are smart enough to actually acknowledge a mistake when they've made it. And they say, hey, we made a mistake. We're undoing this now. Will YouTube do that? I don't know. They've kind of got a mixed history on that. On one hand, they realize that combining Google Plus with the YouTube comments was a dumb idea. On the other hand, they haven't done their course on restoring the dislike count. So, you know, who knows? Let's see here. Well, all right. So, Gates of Conflict, your comment got flagged, but I'm going to unhide it. Corruption is a B word. Also, they did not want to deal with a person with mental illness, and that might be part of it. There is a possibility that they looked at the situation because there was a shooting at YouTube headquarters a few years ago, and they were like, "Nah, this person might actually do something." In fact, here's the interesting thing. Like my bullies and stuff like that. Granted, most of them were small fry. They weren't big, and so you could sleep tight. But there were a couple of them that were big enough that did create a problem for me. And I had friends in the Uber tuber community, which isn't really a community anymore, and they admitted to me personally that, yeah, we disagree with these people, but we don't want to stand up for you because we would then have to deal with those people. Again, good Samaritan thing. I mean, we know we should do something right. We know that there's strength in numbers, but who wants to deal with the hassles? This is YouTube. We're making videos. It shouldn't be this complicated. We're not in high school anymore. Macman, who I've also never seen, but thank you for visiting us, says, "What's up? Thanks for speaking out on the Ackman situation." Well, I'm not the only one. I am one of many who are doing this, but I think the fact that YouTube almost seems to be in unanimous agreement that this is wrong, I think that speaks volume, so I just wanted to be part of the conversation. I've even something I've not watched in a long time. I watched a video by The Quartering, which I used to be a fan of The Quartering. I'm not so much anymore. And it was a sweet video. And it's like, yeah, I totally agree with The Quartering on this. This is wrong. And I don't know how much talk he is. I've never spoken to the guy personally, but it's like, I hope that if he does have lawyers who can help, maybe, that can help. I don't know. Let's see here. Q2, I see your joke, but I can't I can't share that one. It's Morbin time from MSB. Yup. Kevin, the Live-trepreneur. I used to go live all the time, but that was when the live viewers would typically between 50 to 150 people watching live. One time, I had over 300 people watching live, and I remember that day, and it was like, oh my gosh, there's over 300 people watching me. I can't believe it. I kind of miss those days. Like, you got some very fun conversations. So, all right, so that's as far back as I can go. Gates of Conflict says, the issue here is that YouTube are using rules to try to bypass law. What they need to do is see if there was a crime or legal issue that happened that can affect YouTube and go from there. You're right. That's absolutely what they should do. And I think going forward, they might start taking that a little bit more seriously if situations get big enough, because they're going to hear a lot of this from the media. And YouTubers are, of course, going to... I mean, who knows? Maybe YouTube has no problem just terminating every YouTuber who speaks about this situation. It is possible. They seem much more interested in Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon stuff and car karaoke, although I think that's coming to an end soon, than they are the everyday stars. Like, they're almost embarrassed of the fact that it's the PewDiePies and the Filthy Franks and Fred. Remember Fred? I remember Fred. They're ashamed that that's the content that made YouTube popular because it's not really advertiser friendly. But then advertisers just take things way too seriously anyway. Q2 said, what specifically should happen to Quantum TV, legally and YouTube-wise? Well, legally, I definitely think Ackman has a case to sue him. for harassment. He's got well documented evidence. I'm sure a jury would love to see that. It might even be an extremely entertaining trial. For YouTube, I think YouTube, I will admit, they're in more of a gray area in the sense that what the Act Man does off camera, technically, from a legal perspective, shouldn't affect them because they're doing it off YouTube property. And I've actually argued that people should not be fired over Facebook or Twitter posts from their companies because, that's off company property. It's their own dime. It's like, it's not on the company's dime, I should say. But then, if the company starts getting calls from people saying, what your employer did, and, what are you going to do about this? It's like, then you feel compelled because it's like you have just made the business look bad. And I think if you do something that embarrasses the business, they do have a right to get rid of you. So I think Quantum TV definitely fits the description, if for no other reason, because it's like, yeah, you can look at the copyright claims, and I mean, it's really weird because YouTube claims that Quantum TV did nothing wrong, and yet they haven't actually upheld any of Quantum TV's copyright claims either, which suggests that, well, maybe he is abusing the copyright claim system. But I think there might be a third kind of unspoken thing. Drama sells and makes a lot of money. And there might be a part of this where YouTube basically didn't want it to end because not only were they seeing the numbers, they saw the money that was coming in from this, the super chats, the advertisements, and how much of a cut is YouTube. Maybe they just didn't want it to end, for all we know. That's a possibility, and then it goes just one step too far for YouTube's taste, and now they're waiting for the other shoe to drop. So anyway, that's the end of the questions that I can see. So we are going to bring this episode of the Apptrepreneur Show to an end. Thank you so much. Please like the video before you go if you enjoyed our conversation. One more comment before we leave, because why the heck not? We're 3 minutes away from an hour. Right now, if it's in the terms of YouTube, it is defamation, but I could be wrong. Right now, if it is in terms of YouTube, it is defamation, but I could be wrong. Defamation on whose end, per se? I mean, if you're talking about Act Man, then maybe YouTube could make the claim that it was defamation, although Act Man made a very compelling case, and who knows if the, full evidence would actually show that. But then Act Man wasn't the problem. Act Man was you say YouTube, okay. Yeah, there's a probability of that, especially since they flagged it for nudity and sexual content. That's probably something that can be challenged pretty easily by the Act Man if he so chooses. So possibly. Anyway, folks, that's where we're going to end it. Remember, like the video, comment below, and send your complaints about this in general to YouTube, but be polite about it. Don't turn it into a how dare you, suspend the Act Man. He didn't do anything wrong. I mean, that's not an argument you can win. But say hey, you do realize that the Act Man was highlighting a problem that is on the platform and is still on the platform, and it makes me not want to use the site. I mean, I don't know what that's going to do either, because is there really a competitor to YouTube? I guess Dailymotion's still out there, but not really. So anyway, it is a mess, but I felt good talking about all this. So anyway, thank you for joining me. Love you all. Flame responsibly. I got to lean over, turn it off, but you have a good night.